Of course, obtaining the codebook was not enough. To destroy this Iron Dragon, this Canavar, as the Ottomans had named it, we had to send it 3 encrypted messages telling it to stand down. There were Ottoman outposts scattered along the railroad tracks. The commanders there carried high-priority message capsules. We had to use those to send our orders. Infiltrating the village wouldn't be easy. A full detachment of Ottoman soldiers had occupied it. The Ottomans had chosen an isolated location for their desert outpost. It seemed lightly defended. It was also well stocked with arms and equipment. The ancient ruins were all that remained of a civilization now lost to time. The Ottoman Empire brought in the modern world with a host of armored vehicles and field guns. 3 commanders to eliminate, 3 personal message capsules to be stolen, and then sent with our false orders. How Zara tackled this dangerous and audacious mission was up to her.
Salutations, stealthy suffragettes. Automatic here for Automatic Games, bringing you the second installment of Nothing is Written, which highlights the exploits of Lawrence of Arabia. More specifically, we're taking on the personage of Zara Gafron, one of his Bedouin rebel patriots, or patriots, I should say. And she is wise to put her head down, keep her head down as that patrol passes.
Bedouin treasured their horses. And in return,
ultimately, she wants to assassinate 3 Ottoman officers,
speed and mobility.
Take little satchels from them, attach those to courier pigeons, which shall give forged orders to the Ottoman train telling it to stand down at a predetermined location, where, of course, the Bedouin rebels will strike and hopefully destroy her. Her being the train, not Zara, of course. Anyhow, let's discuss a little more of the historical perspective behind Lawrence of Arabia. Now, certainly he was an advocate for the Arab revolt. He fought by their side. He was an attaché to Prince Faisal. And I want to discuss not only his role, but I've got to discuss Sykes-Picot, which is an agreement forged by the Western powers, namely Great Britain and France, the repercussions of which carved up the Middle East into the states that we know them today. They created the geographical boundaries that certainly would not have sat well with the Arab revolutionaries of the time. Nonetheless, Sykes-Picot did go into effect, and as a result, we have the Middle Eastern states the way we know them today, with a few exceptions, of course, like Israel, which would have been, I think, 1948. Anyhow, I want to discuss whether or not Lawrence of Arabia was complicit in or aware of Sykes-Picot. As far as being complicit, he did not have his hands in the actual manufacture of the agreement. So I would say no, he was not complicit in Sykes-Picot, only so much as he was aware of it. He was aware of it, and man, this guard sees me. Just try to do this quick. And he didn't speak up. Good for him. Good for Zara, really. Anyhow, Thomas Edward Lawrence was aware of Sykes-Picot and the ramifications that it would have. However, he did not appraise Prince Faisal or anybody else to it. I mean, and if he did, I don't know that it would have made much of a difference. After all, the Arab revolt's primary goal, or their kind of endgame goal, was the capture of Damascus. I want to say Damascus is what we're going to be talking about here, because I may be wrong, but I'm pretty certain. You know, they wanted to capture a major city, and it didn't get any more major than Damascus back then. So, my point being that Lawrence wanted to take Damascus with the rebels before the Allies could. Therefore, Prince Faisal and his ilk could have more of a bartering chip when it came to Sykes-Picot. Unfortunately, this would not come to pass. You know, the Western powers, they captured Damascus, or they first assaulted it hours before the rebels showed up. And I think it was an Australian regiment that spearheaded the attack. Granted, the Australians kind of stood back when the rebels showed up and said, you know, you guys kind of take the lead here, because, well, for obvious reasons, cultural reasons primarily. But, yeah, unfortunately, the Bedouin rebels and their allies, by the time they took Damascus, the Western powers were already there. So, Lawrence did not necessarily get his wish. That whole idea is kind of made famous by the movie Lawrence of Arabia, where Colonel Lawrence argues with General Allenby about that very thing, about who's going to take Damascus first, arguing that it would be him, that, you know, kind of, Allies be damned, the rebels are going to take it first, and then what? And of course, as a result of Sykes-Picot, we have experienced and witnessed a century of bloodshed and instability in the Middle East. Now, I'm not saying that Sykes-Picot is the only contributor. It's obviously not. Oil plays into it a great deal. But it marks a distinguishing point in Western meddling. And it serves as kind of a black mark on Lawrence of Arabia's reputation. Let's see, and you know, Prince Faisal, he would not have agreed to that. However, he was one of the beneficiaries of it, being the first king of Iraq after the war. But no, I mean, he would not have been cool with that, for lack of a better word.
A single order wouldn't be enough.
Now, so let's see. I've talked a little bit about Lawrence and Faisal. Let's get back to Pasha, General Pasha, who would be the big baddie in this area, which is, God, such a juvenile way to put it. But Jamal Pasha was a really nasty man. He assassinated his political rivals. He hanged Christians and Muslims that he merely perceived as being a threat to his power. And whether that threat was ever vindicated, history kind of throws a bit of a skeptical eye on that. The man was bloodthirsty. In fact, he had a nickname among his own people. They called him the Bloodshedder. The man was, like I said, he was one of the three pashas, the three dictators of the Ottoman Empire. And more than those assassinations that I just spoke of, he was complicit in genocide. And I'm a lover of history, if you can't tell that by now, and I'm very careful about the word genocide. I don't want to confuse it with the word ethnocide. Genocide, as far as I can tell, is when a state tries to exterminate a population. That's genocide. Or maybe a group in power tries to exterminate a population. It isn't ethnocide where, by means of force, you're actually trying to destroy the culture of another people and basically get them to gravitate towards your culture, which I would argue is what we did to our own Native Americans here in the States. And it's just as dastardly as genocide, but it's not necessarily genocide. Well, I fear that I've just done it, that I've opened up a can of worms there. As you might do when you mention the Plains Indian Wars, you know, and couple that with ethnocide. And some people may ask, you know, why even make that characterization? And the reason I do is because it's true, because, at least as far as I can see, it's true. Those are two terms that we apply to certain horrible situations, and it depends on how you define them, but, you know, the definitions are clearly there for you to look up. And I've had some people ask me, you know, that, God, man, don't you consider Wounded Knee or Sands Creek, don't you consider that genocide? And my answer doesn't gain much favor, but no, I don't. I think of them as massacres. Evil, horrible in their own right, but not necessarily genocide. And genocide is more of a blanket term, whereas ethnocide is a byproduct of genocide. What I mean by that is, if you're going to commit genocide and annihilate a race of people, then by default, their culture's gone too. However, if you're looking at history and you're trying to determine between the two, you're going to look for assimilation. And assimilation is going to indicate that what is occurring is ethnocide, not the extermination of the race, but it's kind of like assimilate or die. Whereas genocide, quite obviously, is just die. But yeah, it's a touchy issue. And I don't want you to think for a moment that I'm trying to downplay the atrocities that the United States visited upon the numerous Native American nations. They're real. And if I were told to decide between the two, I would be on the side of the natives every time. After all, I was taught that any treaty entered upon by the President of the United States is to be regarded as the supreme law of the land. It's quite clearly spelled out in our own laws. And so the revocation of the Black Hills Treaty, of the Treaty of Fort Laramie, you know, to renege on these is a high crime and quite disgusting. Something that I wish we could atone for, but practically speaking, how does one atone for that? Of course, the United States Congress has determined that we can atone for that with money, but I think the Sioux in particular are wise to say, you know, you keep your money and you come back when you want to grant us the Black Hills. Now, I don't know that that'll ever come to pass, but... And I do hope that you'll forgive me for going on this, for basically trying to dig my way out of this hole, because I had the audacity to mention the Plains Indian Wars in a video about World War I. I'd like to get us back on course now, and again, I do beg your pardon. But that's where I stand. That's why I even mentioned ethnocide. My point being that I'm very careful when applying the word genocide to any particular government. But there is no question about it that the Ottoman Empire was complicit in genocide, and namely the three pashas were. More specifically, if I'm going to name instances, the Assyrian genocide, the Greek genocide, and the Armenian genocide, all of which were designed by the three pashas. In fact, it was after the war, and I want to say it was in the early 20s, so it was shortly after the war that Jamal Pasha was assassinated by a band of Armenians. And of course, this was revenge for the Armenian genocide. So yeah, he was an evil SOB, and he certainly had it coming. He kind of is. Oh, those headlights, they're going to be coming by. And it's with great pleasure that I digress back to the game here. Where did that truck go? Well, folks, we've got a phantom truck. Hate those phantom trucks. Now, he must have turned around and headed up that back road. Anyhow, yeah. So Jamal Pasha is the commander-in-chief of all of these garrisons. Any group of troops in this area are going to be commanded by him, unless, of course, they're commanded by Kress von Kressenstein, who I really don't know much about. You know, if I was looking at an article, I don't know if I could get past his name and read the article. That's not true, but I don't know as much about him as I do Pasha. Certainly, I'm no expert on any of this, so if you are as history-obsessed as myself, if you're like me, I beg you to correct any misstatements I've made. Except for the ethnocide part, I'd like that to just die where it was. You know, I regret even mentioning that. Okay, so I want to take that tank, which is certainly going to throw stealth to the wayside, and I am quite a fallible tank commander. I'm not good at it, don't have much experience. But at least in this case, I don't have to align the tank for crew. I'll throw a grenade, say goodbye to stealth, and hop in here. Yeah, because this is a one-man tank. And God, I am horrible at this. I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with this cannon. I really couldn't. It's sad. Oh, but nonetheless, I could hit any wall any wall downrange. I could hit it with my tank itself. I am prone to do that. So I should have thought this out a little more. I don't know where the garrison commander is. I can't climb that embankment. Oh, this is horrible. I'm gonna blame Zara. I mean, she's a Bedouin rebel. She doesn't have much experience, that is, inside these steel beasts. Yeah, I'm quoting The Last Crusade. In the belly of that steel beast. Anyhow. Okay, no garrison commander over there. Now, how long is it going to be until they throw an anti-tank grenade at me? I reckon it won't be long. This guy, we're just doing a waltz over here. Oh, man. I think I actually inflicted a casualty with that shot. Well, that's fine. It doesn't necessarily redeem my tanker skills. Or lack thereof, I should say. Yeah, certainly lack thereof. You know, one thing about Battlefield 1, I just try to run this guy over. Oh, and I can do it. Oh, see, I can hit things with the tank, just not with the tank's gun. One thing about Battlefield, that's the guy. Oh, okay, now they're using anti-tank weapons. This is very poor planning, but I'm just gonna hot-foot it straight to the courier pigeon. I was about to complain about Battlefield 1, and what it is it's their server issues. You won't be able to get online for multiplayer, it seems like, at least a sixth of the time, and when you can't, they give you a message that says, it looks like you're offline, which is a joke, because it's EA that's offline, my connection's fine. Oh, come on, there we go. Alright, so this should do it, folks. As usual, if you like this, Oh! I didn't like that. If you didn't like this because of my careless political jargon, hit that thumbs down. Otherwise, I appreciate you watching. This has been Automatic for Automatic Games.
You see, the message had already been sent, my dear. Not the message you would have wanted. Lawrence was such a good host. It almost seemed rude to escape. Made sure to note the location of Lawrence's camp, of course. Which means the train knows too. Twice, you told that train everything was clear. But I told it exactly where to attack. The beast has your scent, my dear. And it's coming to slaughter you and your little band of rebels. First, the firestorm from the cannon. Then, up close with the troops to slaughter any survivors. The legend of Lawrence of Arabia dies tonight.
Nice. Yeah, this has been Automatic for Automatic Games, and I will talk to you soon, friends.